Don't turn this off. If you can still hear my voice, it means the grid hasn't died where you are yet, and that alone puts you ahead of a lot of people tonight. My name is Daniel Reed, broadcasting from what used to be WQXR 92.7 FM out of downtown Columbus, Ohio. It's 1:43 in the morning. The sky outside the studio windows is black, but it's not the kind of quiet night you get after a football game or a snowstorm. The city sounds wrong. No late traffic hum from the freeway, no bar crowds spilling into the street, just sirens in the distance, and every now and then a single gunshot that echoes like someone slamming a metal door at the end of a long hallway. Inside here, the only light is the board in front of me, the few surviving monitors, and a battery lantern propped up on an old stack of ad scripts. The AC cut out 6 hours ago when the building dropped off the main grid, so it's warm, sticky, and the air feels heavier with every passing minute. If the generator downstairs holds up, you'll hear me for at least a little while longer. If it doesn't, this might be the last time anyone uses this frequency for anything other than static. I don't have music. I don't have commercials. I don't have a producer in my ear or a boss texting me to tell me to cool it. For legal reasons, I have one mic, a manual fader, a patch line to one old landline, and a backup battery that I'm staring at like it's the last candle in the world. So if you're spinning the dial because your TV died or your phone went dark and you landed here by accident, stay with me. This is not a prank. This is not a late-night horror show. This is the closest thing you're going to get to a live map of a country breaking apart in real time. People keep asking when this started. The truth is, it didn't start tonight. It didn't start when the first emergency alert flashed across your phone and nobody's phone could connect to the link. It didn't start when CNN cut to a shaky feed from an ICU in Seattle that froze mid-scream and never came back. It started like these things always start, in the kind of stories you scroll past because you're in line at Starbucks and you just want to see the score. A month ago, there was a small piece buried on page 3 of the Columbus Dispatch about an aggressive strain of viral encephalitis showing up in a cluster of patients in a long-term care home outside Dayton. A line or two about unusual agitation, rapid onset fever, confusion, violence at the onset of coma. It sounded ugly, but contained, the way they always say it is. The public health director wore a calm face and said the word monitoring twice in the same sentence, and everyone moved on. Nobody reads past the first paragraph unless it's about gas prices or the Buckeyes. 2 weeks after that, an ER nurse who listens to this station called me during my regular shift. Back when this was just a late-night show, and my biggest problem was filling space between songs and reading live reads for used car lots. Her name was Tasha, Riverside Methodist, here in Columbus. She lowered her voice and said they were getting patients who weren't responding to sedation. Bodies in restraints. Bodies with eyes wide open and pupils blown. No reaction to light, yet they kept trying to get out of bed. Biting. That was the word she used. Not lashing out. Biting. She said one of them tore straight through the leather strap of the wrist restraint with his teeth. She told me that off record, and then she laughed in that tired way nurses laugh when they've seen too much and said, "I should forget she called." I didn't forget. 3 nights later, I got a call from a trucker outside of Pittsburgh, voice shaking, saying he'd passed 3 wrecks in less than 20 miles on I-70 cars on the shoulder with the doors open, nobody waving for help, lights still on. "It feels wrong out here," he said. "Like everyone left at once." I asked if he'd called state troopers. He said their line was busy. He said 911 rang and then cut. It sounded like a network hiccup. Now we know it wasn't. Those were the first little cracks. A weird ER story. Abandoned cars. Some shaky phone videos of people in airport terminals convulsing on the floor while TSA tried to keep crowd control clips that would show up on TikTok, rack up 1 million views, then vanish. No context, no follow-up, just the usual swirl of fear and jokes and filters. The first time I got scared for real was last Thursday at 2:09 p.m. when every phone in the building buzzed at once and the emergency alert didn't look like anything I'd seen before. Not the old, "This is a test" banner, not a tornado warning or Amber Alert, just a red bar and a line. National Public Health Emergency. Shelter in place, await instructions. Then the signal stopped. Half the phones froze and wouldn't unlock. The Wi-Fi dropped. The station's internet relay for streaming went dead. The TV in the break room showed the president about to speak. Then the screen went black for a full minute before it switched to the blue FEMA slate that said, "We are experiencing technical difficulties." Tonight, there is no we. There is just whoever's still talking, wherever they are. If you're within the radius of this antenna, you're picking me up on 92.7 FM. If the skip is weird tonight, and my engineer's wiring trick actually works, some of you over in parts of Indiana, or maybe even Kentucky, might be getting me as a faint buzz under whatever else is left on the air. If you hear my voice fading in and out under another station, do not adjust the dial. Just listen for what you can. I'll repeat what matters as long as I'm able to speak. Here's what I know so far. From the calls, from the scraps of cable that still come through, from the police scanner that's running on the desk to my left, and from the men and women who trusted me with things they weren't supposed to say on a normal night. Whatever this thing is, it isn't just viral encephalitis. It started like the flu. Fever, aches, confusion. But then came the part no one wanted to put into a press release, people dying and then getting up again. Not hours later. Not in a movie way with dramatic music, but minutes after a flatline. Heart monitors squealing, nurses calling time of death, and then a body jerking hard enough to rip out IV lines. Bodies that don't talk, don't seem to know their own names, but move with this single ugly purpose: to bite and tear and spread whatever is burning in their blood. You're hearing zombie in your head, I know. The word everyone uses in half-jokes. In the first days, the anchors on cable smiled a little when they said it, like they needed to show they weren't taking it too seriously. Nobody is smiling now. They stopped saying zombie 12 hours ago. Now they say type Z cases or category Z events, like a letter changes the thing that's in front of them. The last live hit I saw from a national network was from a field hospital set up in the parking lot of a Walmart in Houston. The reporter's mic cut every few seconds. The picture broke into blocks, but you could see the cots packed together, the terror in the eyes of people who hadn't slept in days. Behind them, in the far corner of the frame, there was a line of bodies under sheets. One of those sheets was moving. Let me give you some local reality. Columbus is not safe. If you live near OSU, you already know this. Around sunset, the scanner lit up with code after code from around the campus area. Reports of violent rioters, uncontrolled crowds, assaults with severe biting trauma. At first, the police called it unrest. They tried to box people in near High Street and Lane Avenue. Within an hour, those calls turned into frantic requests for backup, and then they just stopped. Every channel went quiet at once, like someone hit mute. Traffic cameras around I-71 were still online for a while. I watched one feed from the Hudson Street overpass. Cars backed up as far as the eye could see, some turned sideways, some burning people running between them. At the edge of the frame, a figure stumbled into the lane, hit by a sedan going maybe 40. It rolled up over the hood, tumbled, slammed onto the asphalt, and lay there. The driver got out, hands on his head, screaming. Then the figure on the ground started to move. It got up, one leg bent wrong. It turned toward the closest person like it could smell him. That camera died a minute later. I know I sound calm. I'm not. My hands are shaking so much I keep hitting the wrong fader. But I need you to hear this clean. If you are in a major metro area in the continental United States, you need to assume the following. Do not trust sirens to mean help is coming. A lot of those sirens now belong to empty vehicles or vehicles with drivers who are just trying to get away. Do not go out to see what's happening. You already know what's happening. Stay off the street level if you can. Higher floors are better than ground roofs are okay, as long as you have more than one way down. Lock your doors, but don't stop there. Heavy furniture against entrances is better than any cheap deadbolt. If you live in an apartment building, secure the stairwell doors. Elevators are death traps now. If the power cuts mid-ride and those things are in the car with you, there's nowhere to go. I need to talk about bites, because the rumor mill is eating people alive almost as fast as this thing is. From what I've been told by the few medical staff who still have a way to reach me, transmission is almost always through blood and saliva bites. Deep scratches that break skin. If you've been bitten and it broke the skin, you are at risk. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. There is no confirmed case yet of someone surviving a bite without turning. That doesn't mean it's impossible, but I'm not going to tell you a story. I don't have proof for just to make you feel better for a few minutes. If someone in your group has been bitten, I know what that means for you. I know what you're thinking. Some of you will try to tie them up and hope. Some of you will draw straws. I can't see you, but I'm speaking to the room you're in right now. Decide early. Decide clear. Do not stand in a small space with someone who has a fresh bite mark on their arm and pretend nothing has changed. You will lose more people that way. I'm sorry. I wish I had a kinder sentence to say, but this is where we are. There are theories about where this came from, and I've heard most of them. A virologist from a lab in Atlanta emailed the station 2 days before we lost our servers. He didn't use his real name. The message came from a burner account. He claimed that what we're seeing is the result of a failed attempt to create a fast-acting antiviral agent that would jump from host to host and teach the immune system to respond to a whole family of viruses at once. A burn-through vaccine, he called it. Something that could leap ahead of future pandemics instead of always chasing. According to him, the project went wrong. There was a mutation, or a mix-up, or sabotage, depending which line of his message you read. Instead of boosting immune response, it hijacked the nervous system. It swapped out the body's usual pilot for something that cares about only one thing: spreading itself. Is that true? I don't know. I can't verify it, and he's not responding to follow-up. But it fits with the speed. It fits with the way this thing seems to move like a thought, not like a normal disease. On the other side, a man who said he was with the Ohio National Guard called earlier tonight, just before most military comms went dark. He wouldn't give me his rank, but I could hear the command in his voice. He says, "Intelligence has been warning about something like this for years. Bioweapons research gone sideways overseas. Labs in places we only hear about when there's a coup. Black sites experimenting with stuff that never shows up in public reports. According to him, this isn't an accident. It's a leak, or a test, or blowback from a weapon that wasn't supposed to be used on home soil. He said some units were told in plain words to treat this as hostile activity by a non-state actor. When I asked him who, the line crackled, and he said he had already said too much. Scientific accident. Weapon. Nature, finally tired of being pushed and spitting something back at us. In the end, for you sitting in a dark living room in Cleveland or a farmhouse outside Des Moines with your shotgun across your knees, it doesn't matter which story is true. The thing at your door doesn't care about motives. I promised survivors their voices, so I want to give you some of them, even if it's secondhand now. About an hour ago, I spoke with a woman named Erica in Omaha. 2 kids, no power, husband stuck on a business trip in Chicago and probably not getting home. She lives in a cul-de-sac, one of those quiet little neighborhoods with neat lawns and the same 3 SUVs copy-pasted in every driveway. She said it started there when one of the neighbors, an older man who used to walk his golden retriever past her window every morning at 7, collapsed in his front yard. His wife screamed for help. 3 of the neighbors ran over. By the time they got there, he was already on his feet again. This is where her voice broke, because you could tell she didn't want to say what came next. He went for his wife first, she said. No words, just straight at her throat. One of the neighbors tried to pull him off. The others ran. Now there are 3 bodies in the cul-de-sac and more of them dragging between the cars, arms reaching out, jaws working. She said they slam against her front door every few minutes like they know she's inside. Her kids are in the upstairs bathroom with headphones on so they can't hear the sounds. She turned on the radio to drown it out and found me. "Tell me this will stop," she said. I couldn't. I told her to fill the bathtub with water while she still had pressure, to move the fridge in front of the door if she could, and to stay away from windows. It felt thin. Words often do right before dawn. If you're listening from Kansas City, I need you to know that the downtown core is a no-go zone now. Multiple fires, uncontrolled. Radio chatter from fire crews stopped 30 minutes ago. A man calling himself Leo from an office tower near Union Station said the stairwells are full of them, and the fire alarms are constant. He and a handful of coworkers have broken into a conference room, stacked desks against the door, and are using the snack machine for food. He wanted to know how long they could last. I did some quick math out loud with him. If there are 6 of them and each bag of chips is 200 calories, that machine is maybe 3 days of food if they stretch it and don't waste anything. There was silence on the line for a while after that. Then he said, "We should have stocked the break room better," and laughed until it sounded like crying. Let's talk about the infrastructure, because that's how you tell how sick a system really is, not by the screams, but by the cables. Cell service is patchy nationwide. If your phone still works, don't waste the battery on doom scrolling. Use text over calls whenever you can. It uses less power and less bandwidth. Keep your brightness low. Turn off background apps. Airplane mode between short check-ins. I know that sounds like some old blog's battery-saving tips, but this time it's not about squeezing out another hour of social media. It's about being able to get that one last message through when it matters. The power grid is going down in a weird pattern. It's not just storms knocking things out randomly. Whole regions are being cut off, maybe to contain the spread, maybe because there aren't enough people left to run the plants or fix the lines. I heard a recorded statement from someone at the Department of Energy earlier. We are prioritizing power to critical infrastructure. The hospitals, the command centers, the bunkers. So if you're in a residential area and the lights die, Don't expect them to come back in a few hours like after a normal outage plan for darkness that doesn't end. Water is still running in most places for now, but there are reports of low pressure around Los Angeles, Phoenix, parts of Miami, and the outskirts of New York. If you have taps that still work, if you are hearing my voice and your faucet gives you something other than air, stop listening for a minute and fill every container you own. Pots, pans, buckets, storage bins, trash cans lined with clean bags, anything. You can come back to the sound of my voice later. Water is more important than updates. If you've got kids, get them to help. It keeps their minds busy, and it might save them in 2 days. Some of you are wondering about the military. I don't have the full picture. No one outside those bunkers does. But I can tell you this. There were troop movements on the interstates yesterday that you couldn't ignore. Convoys of Humvees heading toward major cities, cargo planes flying out of bases, low and heavy. After dark, the jets started. Fast, loud, low passes over city centers. People sent me videos of tracers arcing down into crowded streets where the infected were packed together. They are using live fire. They are using airstrikes. This is not a drill or a show of force. This is them trying to draw a line where the spread stops. So far, that line keeps moving, and not in the direction we want. There are rumors, just rumors, so don't hang your planning on them, about a safe zone somewhere in Colorado. Something about the mountains being easier to defend, the thinner population, the natural choke points on the highways. A major from Fort Carson supposedly went on a local radio station in Colorado Springs earlier, saying they were establishing defensible perimeters and processing centers for the uninfected. If you're in that area and you can see signs pointing you there, weigh that choice very carefully. Any crowd is a target now. Any mass gather point is one bite away from turning into a death pit. If you go towards a so-called safe zone, keep your distance from the center. Stay at the fringe, where you can break away if things go bad. If your instinct is to run to the nearest big city, because that's where the hospitals and big buildings and official buildings are, fight that instinct. The cities are where this thing moves fastest. Too many people, too many tight spaces, too many blind corners and locked stairwells and basement levels with no exits. Suburbs are bad in a different way. Too many windows, too thin walls. But at least you can see what's coming down the street. I know some of you are alone. Some of you turned this on just to hear another human voice say something that isn't a pre-recorded emergency tone. I'm alone too, in here. My co-host, Rick, tried to make it in when all this started getting serious. But he got stuck in traffic on 315 near the OSU campus, and I haven't heard from him since. The text he sent me at 6:17 p.m. just said, "They're out of their cars. I don't think they're alive. Tell Lily I'm sorry." Lily is his wife, Lily. If by some twist you're listening, I'm telling you now. He was thinking of you. He was sorry about every argument about money, or that time he forgot your anniversary. He died thinking of you, or he's somewhere still trying to get home. I don't know which is worse tonight. I can feel myself getting pulled into the personal stuff, and part of me wants to stay there because it's easier than the big picture. But I promised I'd be straight with you, so here's the part you probably don't want to think about. This is not going to be over in a week. This is not going to be over when someone figures it out in a lab and pushes a magic cure over the internet. Labs take time. Tests take time. Manufacturing takes time. If this was a normal outbreak, we'd be talking 18 months for a vaccine at best. That's what they always say on the news. 18 months to design, test, scale. We don't have 18 months. We don't have 18 days the way this looks. So instead of hoping for a cure to drop from the sky, you need to think about how you're going to make it through the next 18 hours. Then, the 18 after that. Where you're going to sleep tonight. What you're going to drink tomorrow if the water stops. What you can eat that doesn't need to be cooked if the gas lines are cut and the power is gone, and lighting a fire in your backyard is just a big signal flare saying, "Hey, something still breathing is here." If you're in a house, look around you right now. Pantry, fridge, cupboards. Count calories, not items. A can of beans is about 350 calories. A jar of peanut butter, 2,000 to 3,000. Pasta, rice, cereal, all that boring shelf stuff your kids never wanted to eat, that's money now. Make a list in your head. How many days can you go if you ration? How many people are you feeding? Can you cut portions before you feel hungry all the time, not after? You need to think like that. Hunger is easier to fix than a bite mark. I keep glancing at the clock on the wall. It still says 1:43 a.m. because it's battery powered and doesn't know that time outside this room is bending. People always talk about the end of the world like a single moment, an impact, a flash, a countdown to zero. But that's not what this is. This is a slow tearing, a thread coming undone inch by inch, building after building, block after block, station after station going off the air, until the dial is just hiss and empty. Carrier waves. We're not at empty yet. Not while I'm still here. I'm going to start sharing more of the calls and messages that have come in, because even if the lines drop, their stories can move through you. You can carry them. You can learn from their mistakes and their small wins. There was a guy from Newark, New Jersey, named Mateo, who called about 2 hours ago. He lives on the 8th floor of a high-rise, small apartment, works nights as a janitor at a hospital. He saw the first Type Z, as the doctors called them, in the psych ward, a patient they swore was dead, zippered in a bag, moving against the plastic. He ran. He grabbed his backpack, his passport, no idea why, habit maybe. When he got home, the elevators were down. He walked 8 flights, too tired to feel anything, and found 3 infected in the stairwell halfway up. They had cornered a teenage girl. She was frozen, back against the wall. He didn't think. He pushed a cleaning cart he'd been dragging up the stairs straight into them and used the gap to pull her past. They slammed the door to the floor landing and jammed it with the metal cart. Now, in his apartment, he has the girl, his neighbor from down the hall, and a dog that isn't his, but decided to live with them for now. They blocked the door with the couch. They have 3 bags of rice, 2 cans of soup, 4 bottles of water, and 1 baseball bat. He said his building faces another high-rise across a narrow street, and every time he looks out the window, he sees someone else doing the same thing, staring back at him from behind glass, wondering who will last longer. He asked me, "Do we go down and try to run, or do we stay up here and wait?" I told him the thing that feels like a betrayal every time I say it. Right now, up is safer than out. He thanked me anyway. Maybe you're in a situation like his. High floor, tight corridors, no quick escape. Here's what you can do that doesn't require guns or training or anything more than a stubborn will to live. Quiet. That's your number 1 weapon. These things home in on sound, screaming, slamming doors, engines, all that draws them like sharks to blood in the water. Keep your space as quiet as possible. No blasting TV. No yelling across rooms. Hand signals if you have to. If you have kids, turn this into a game. Who can stay silent the longest wins extra crackers. Light discipline matters too. At night, a bright lit window is a beacon. If power still works, cover windows with blankets, cardboard, whatever you have. Leave only one small lamp on in a central room so you aren't wandering in total dark and breaking your neck. Take stock of anything that can serve as a weapon. Not because you're suddenly going to become an action hero, but because having something to put between you and a set of teeth can mean the difference between a close call and a midnight funeral. Brooms, mops, kitchen knives taped to the end of a pole, heavy flashlights, chair legs, anything that gives you reach. Aim for the head. That part, at least, matches all the stories destroy the brain, stop the body. It's ugly work. It's work most of you never imagined having to do outside of a video game. But if it comes to it, hesitate later, not in the moment. I want to tell you what it feels like in here, because maybe that helps you feel less like you're losing your own mind. The studio used to be alive at night. The soft glow from the control room next door, phones blinking, texts popping up on the monitor. I used to play tracks on request, take dumb calls from bored people in dorm rooms, talk through breakups and drunk confessions. The soda machine in the hallway would make that humming sound, and then clunk when someone put in $1. You don't realize how full of small noises your life is until they all go away. Now, it's the quiet between my words and the faint hiss in my headphones, like the world itself is taking shallow breaths. Every now and then, the emergency alert system tries to kick in, pushes a faint tone under the audio, then gives up because whatever is supposed to trigger it is broken. The phone sits in front of me, one of those old beige landlines with big buttons, and every ring makes me jump because I don't know if it's going to be a human on the other end or just static and the sound of someone breathing too close to the receiver. Lines open again. If you're out there and you still have a working landline or some kind of patched-together connection, the studio number is... God, I've said this number 100,000 times over the last 10 years, and it never felt heavier than right now. 614-555-0199. If it rings, I'll pick up. If it doesn't, don't waste time. The phone company is bleeding out like everything else. There it is. Give me a second. You're on 92.7. This is Daniel. Who am I talking to? Yeah, I can hear you. You're cutting in and out a bit. Try to get closer to the phone. Okay, I've got you better now. Say your name and where you are, please. All right. This is Megan in Dayton. I'm going to say that again so people know this isn't some story I made up in a quiet studio on a normal night. Megan in Dayton, Ohio. Go ahead. She's whispering. She says she's in a pantry. Metal shelves, cleaning supplies, the smell of bleach. That's how she described it. She works as overnight staff at a nursing home off Wilmington Pike, outside the city. She says 3 nights ago they had their first strange case. An old man who kept trying to get out of bed, punching aides, trying to bite them. They strapped him down, called the on-call doctor, and he stopped breathing before the doctor arrived. By the time the doctor got there, the man was sitting up, restraints snapped, eyes. She used the word wrong, like there was nothing behind them except hunger. Megan, keep going. They hit the fire alarm. That's what they were trained to do when a patient became violent and they couldn't calm them down. Sprinklers, strobes, confused old people wandering into the hallway in hospital gowns and socks. She says the sound set something off in the ones who had whatever this is. They started moving faster. The patients in rooms 12, 16, and 19, all of whom were supposedly on end-of-life care, shuffled into the hall and went straight for the staff. No words, no hesitation, just hands out, jaws opening and closing. She's crying. Hold on. Megan, breathe. Just breathe. You're alive right now. Focus on that. She says the building's front doors are glass, and she watched one of her co-workers slam into them full speed with something chasing him, someone chasing him, and the glass spiderwebbed, then shattered. After that, it was everywhere. Old hips, old knees, moving like they were 20 years old again, but with none of the person left. Just that drive. She and 2 other aides pulled 6 patients into the laundry room, shoved washers and dryers against the doors, then realized the laundry room had a back entrance that opened into a service corridor. They barricaded that too. Then they waited. How long have you been in there, Megan? Since late afternoon, and you can still hear them outside the door. She says it's like they never get tired. Shuffling, bumping against the hallway side of the wall. Every now and then, a wet, dragging sound, as if someone's being pulled past. Do you have food? She has vending machines, chips, candy, a few bottles of soda, water from the utility sink, a broom, a mop, a box cutter. No gun. No one here has a gun, she says, like that's an indictment of her whole life. It isn't. You weren't supposed to need one at work. Megan, I need you to do something. Okay? Not right this second, but when we're done talking. Go through everything in that room. Anything you can wedge under the door to make it harder to push open, do it. Twist a mop handle into the bar of the door if you can. Stack detergent boxes. Make noise now, not later. Get it over with, and then go quiet. She asks if anyone's coming. If the National Guard is on the way. If there's some list somewhere with Greenwood Care Center typed on it, with a little blinking dot saying, "Help needed here." Megan, I don't know. I won't lie and say yes just to soothe you for 5 minutes. I can tell you that the Guard has their hands full all over this state. I can tell you that there are a lot of blinking dots, and most of the people who used to watch those screens are either gone or trying to save their own families. But I can also tell you this. You have 4 walls, a door that's still closed, food, water, and a brain that cares about more than one thing, that puts you higher on the survival list than a lot of people tonight. You're not helpless. You're not just meat waiting on a hook. You can plan. You can choose when to sleep, when to eat, when to move. She asks if she should try to run for her car. I imagine the hall. Low light. Linoleum. Shadows moving at the far end. The echo of her own footsteps. Her heart pounding loud enough to draw every dead ear in the building. Megan, here's my advice, and I want everyone listening to hear this for themselves too. If the space you're in is secure and you have supplies, staying is safer than running right now. Moving is for when the walls fail, not before. Every hallway you walk down is a coin toss with teeth on the wrong side of the odds. Wait until dawn, if dawn still means anything where you are. Light gives you more chances to see them before they see you. If you hear the front doors give way, if you hear the barricade at your laundry room door start to crack, if smoke starts coming under the door, that's when you think about running. Not yet. She thanks me. It sounds small, the word thanks, but I can hear her shoulders drop a little through the line. That's something. Megan, stay on the frequency if you can. If you get out, call again. If you can't call, then someone will hear your story and maybe not make the same mistakes. the line died. Landlines aren't supposed to die like that. They're supposed to be rock solid while the rest of the city flickers. But we're past supposed to in every category. If you're in or near Dayton, if you know Greenwood Care Center, and if by some miracle there's still a uniform somewhere with gas in a tank and a gun in the rack and a chain of command, mark that place in your head. You might pass it on the road. If you see signs of life, blankets in windows, tapestries, something that says someone's still here, remember there's a woman named Megan who was brave enough to call and ask the world for help. I'm not going to fill this time with commercials about discount mattresses or car dealerships. We're using every second for what it's worth now. But I need to push some practical things through your ears, even if you're tired of hearing about preparation. Preparation is the only thing that separates you from whatever is pounding on someone else's door right now. If you're near a TV and it still has power and a signal, you've probably noticed a pattern. Local news tries to keep broadcasting longer than the big networks, smaller stations, college channels, independent outfits. The big national feeds cut to canned statements, and then those statements start repeating the same 5-minute clip of a public health director telling you to remain calm. Plays over and over, while the ticker below it quietly shifts from isolated incidents to widespread events to civil disorder. Just before our internet connection died completely, one of the last things I saw was a shaky clip from Washington, D.C. Someone filming from an apartment window near Capitol Hill. You could see the Capitol dome in the distance, lit up like always, but the streets below were chaos. National Guard trucks forming a barrier at an intersection. A crowd of bodies pressing against them, climbing up, falling off, getting back up, going again. The caption said, "They're shooting into the crowd," but you couldn't tell who was who anymore. Just flashes from muzzles, streaks of tracer rounds, and that weird, jerky way the infected move, like their joints are on the wrong clock. Around midnight, another clip surfaced, very briefly, from inside what looked like a secure facility. No location given. White walls, stainless steel. Men and women in lab coats and military uniforms arguing in a conference room. No sound. Someone had recorded through a thick glass pane. On the wall screen, a map of the U.S., dotted with red circles. Every major city, every big airport hub, half the large interstate junctions. The circles were pulsing, growing, overlapping. In the corner of the screen, the letters R0 and a number next to it, 8.4. I had to look that one up fast while the connection lasted, because I don't pretend to be an epidemiologist. R0, the basic reproduction number. How many people one infected person will transmit the disease to, on average, in a population with no immunity? Measles, one of the most contagious diseases we know, sits somewhere around 12 to 18. The early COVID strain clocked in around 2 to 3. If that 8.4 number was real and not some misreading, this thing spreads like a rumor in a high school group chat. Fast, wide, and not picky. What made me feel cold wasn't the number itself, though. It was the body language of the people at that table. You can spot real fear, even without sound shoulders tight, hands clenched, eyes not leaving that map. One woman, hair pinned back in that careful way professionals wear it, just put her face in her hands and sat there while the red circles grew. That feed cut to black after about 20 seconds. The account that posted it vanished an hour later. Maybe it was fake. Maybe someone wanted to stir panic. Maybe it was real, and someone higher up decided we'd all sleep better not knowing. The thing is, you don't need a leaked map to understand how bad this is. You just have to look out your window, listen to your scanner, check the increasing gaps between official updates. The silence speaks louder than any clip. We're getting to the part of this where silence becomes policy. I want you to pay attention to that. There's a point where government stops saying, "We've got this under control," and starts saying nothing at all. Press conferences get shorter, then stop. The official accounts on social media switch from human-sounding posts to automated ones. Then go dormant websites, stop updating. Hotlines play recorded messages on loops. That's where we are now. Earlier tonight, the White House feed pushed one last statement. There was no live video. Just an audio-only address patched over a still image of the presidential seal. The voice was steady, but if you've listened to enough speeches, you could hear the strain. They spoke about unprecedented challenges, resilience, every tool at our disposal. They thanked first responders, urged citizens to remain in their homes, avoid travel, and look out for their neighbors. Then, near the end, a sentence slipped through that sounded less polished, less scripted. The federal government will continue to function in some form, the president said. Not fully, not as always. In some form, like a person on life support. 10 minutes after that address, the official White House site dropped offline. Maybe it's back up now. Maybe you're staring at it on your laptop with a spinning circle. Maybe it comes and goes. That's almost worse. When the lights of authority go out, other lights try to replace them. You'll see self-appointed leaders step up in your community. Some will be the people you'd expect. Local cops, fire chiefs, pastors, school principals, former military. Some will be the guys who always liked the sound of their own voices and see a chance to make a little kingdom out of a cul-de-sac, lean toward the ones who talk less and do more. The ones who share food instead of hoard it. The ones who say we more than you. There are early reports, and I need you to treat these as handle with care, of martial law declarations in parts of the country. Curfews. Shoot on sight orders for anyone showing clear signs of infection and not complying with orders. Roadblocks where they check for bites. If you're on a highway and you come up on one of these, slow down early. Keep your hands visible. Answer questions straight. Those soldiers are scared. They are tired. They have been told the infection can move fast. Don't give them a reason to twitch. But also, and this is where it gets hard, don't walk willingly into a place where someone can lock a gate behind you and call it processing. Crowds are pressure cookers now. A single infected slipping through the screening, and you're in a trap. I'm talking to someone right now through the text interface that still works on one of the non-broadcast monitors. Yeah, the station had a little web chat widget for engagement. Tonight, it's better than any app. He says his name is Tyler. He's in Atlanta, in a mall parking lot that turned into a makeshift checkpoint. He was told to go there by an automated alert on his phone, to be screened and sorted for transfer to a secure location. He showed up with a backpack, a half-tank of gas in his Honda, and his 12-year-old sister in the passenger seat. He describes the scene. Lines of cars, hundreds of them, snaking between cones and barricades. Soldiers. At least they look like soldiers, uniforms and rifles, moving car-to-car medics in masks and gloves peering through windows. People being directed to different colored tents. Green for no signs, yellow for possible exposure, red for needs immediate isolation. A helicopter overhead loudspeakers telling everyone to stay in their vehicles, stay calm, stay cooperative. At first, it went smoothly. Then a woman 3 cars ahead of him started banging on her driver's side window, screaming that she'd changed her mind, that she didn't want to be separated from her husband, that he just had a fever. The medics tried to talk her down. The husband started thrashing in his seat. By the time they reached the car, he was already biting at the glass. According to Tyler, they didn't try to drag him out. They ordered everyone back. A soldier raised his weapon and fired through the windshield glass explosion, screaming, the car in front of him lurching into reverse and slamming his bumper. People started trying to drive out of line, ramming barricades, cutting across medians. The neat system fell apart in minutes. He typed that he managed to pull a hard U-turn and get out, scraping 3 other vehicles on the way. He says his hands are still shaking so much he can barely hit the keys. He asks if he did the right thing. If leaving that scene means he's condemned his sister to die in some unattended apartment instead of in a secure facility. I type back that he did the only thing that kept them alive in that moment. That secure is a word people in charge like to use when they want you to trust them. But in reality, security is something you build yourself. Now I tell him to get off the main roads, find a less obvious place to hole up, stay away from the giant glowing sign that says, "All scared people gather here." You, sitting at home, listening. If you get a message telling you to go to a stadium, a convention center, a big mall, any place that would look like an evacuation center in a movie, think twice, 3 times. We've seen how that story ends, even without zombies. Add bite-based infection that moves faster than panic, and you've got a blender. It sounds like I'm telling you to trust no one, hide in your living room, and never move. I'm not. I'm telling you that movement has to be smart now, not guided by blind faith in whatever still has a logo and a loudspeaker. There are things you can do in the daylight that may save you in the next stretch of dark. If your neighborhood is still relatively quiet, no constant screaming, no endless sirens, no crowds running wild, use that time to walk a short perimeter, not alone, if you can avoid it. 2 or 3 people, tops. Check which houses are clearly empty. Look for signs that someone left in a hurry. Open doors, lights on with no movement inside, cars gone but front doors ajar. Those places might have supplies, canned food, tools, blankets, radios, maps, vehicles that actually have gas. I'm not telling you to loot for the thrill of it. I'm telling you that the idea of private property is changing on the fly. The family that used to live there either took what they needed or didn't make it. If that food sits on a shelf while you starve 2 doors down, that's a kind of sin. Leave notes, if you can. A scrap of paper on the door. Took 3 cans and a flashlight. Apartment 4B. We'll trade if you return. It sounds silly, but it's a way of holding on to being human, of saying, we're still a community, even if we're ghosts walking each other home. There's a knock on the studio door. It's light. Careful. Not the pounding I've been describing on other people's doors. I freeze. The on-air light glows red above me. The board hums. The mic is live. My hand hovers over the fader, because some animal part of my brain wants to kill the mic, turn off the lights, and pretend I'm not here. Dan? A voice says through the wood. A muffled male voice. I know that voice. Who is it? I ask, into the room, my lips drifting away from the mic without meaning to. It's Mark. Engineering. You in there? I turn back to the mic because I promised I'd be honest. I'm still here, I say into the pickup. We've got company. My chair squeaks as I stand. The sound feels weird in my own ears, like it's coming from a stranger. Is it just you? I call toward the door. Yeah, he says. I had to take the stairs. Elevator's dead. That's good, my brain notes. If the elevator's dead, they can't use it either. I walk to the door and rest my hand on the knob. Tell me something only you would know, I say. Old movie trick, but better than none. He chuckles, the sound thin. You spilled coffee on the soundboard in 2019 and made me swear not to tell management. You blamed it on a power surge. Yeah, that happened. I feel my shoulders loosen an inch. I crack the door and peek through the gap. It's him. Mark, mid-40s, thinning hair, face slick with sweat, a flashlight clutched in one hand and a wrench in the other, no blood on his clothes, no faraway look in his eyes, just exhausted danger. I open the door enough to let him slip in, then shove it shut again, turning the lock. You're live, I say, gesturing at the mic. He glances at it like it's an open mouth. Didn't think I'd ever be a guest, he mutters. I slide back into my seat. All right, everyone. We've got Mark in the studio. He's the reason you can hear me at all. If he hadn't nursed that generator through half a dozen breakdowns today, you'd be listening to static. Mark pulls a spare chair up and sits, the wrench still in his hand. He looks like he's aged 10 years since I saw him at noon. Power's out on half the block, he says, voice low but clear enough for the mic to catch. The only reason we've got juice is because the diesel tank wasn't empty when this hit. I've been siphoning from the station van to keep it going. How long can we run like that? I ask. He shrugs, a small, tired lift of the shoulders. Couple hours if nobody else plugs anything in. Maybe more if I stretch it, and you don't mind losing half the lights. We don't need lights, I say. Just this board. He nods, eyes scanning the room like he's checking for ghosts. What's it like out there? I ask him because he's been where I haven't. He blows out a breath. Bad, then quiet, then worse. Downtown's pretty much shot. Cars in every intersection. I saw one of those things chew through a guy's forearm like it was a drumstick. He was still screaming when I turned the corner. I didn't look back. He swallows, Adam's apple bobbing. I came in through the loading dock. He continues. Gate was up. Nobody at the security desk. The lobby lights were flickering, like a bad horror movie. But there wasn't anyone there. No bodies, no blood. Just gone. Stairwells smelled like sweat and metal. Thought I'd run into something every floor, but I didn't see a soul until I got up here. That means the building's either empty, I say, or everyone else found somewhere else to hide. Or they didn't make it, he adds, not sugarcoating it. We sit in that for a second. Just two guys in a small room, speaking into a piece of metal and mesh to people we can't see. Why'd you come back? I ask him. You could have run. You're smart enough to know this place won't be safe forever. He gives a little huff that might be a laugh. Stupid habit, he says. I thought, station's off, someone has to fix it. Then I realized it wasn't off. I heard your voice in the stairwell. Figured if someone was dumb enough to still be talking, someone should be dumb enough to keep the power on. Besides, my apartment's 3 blocks from here, and it's not exactly a bunker. If I'm going to die, I'd rather do it where I've spent the last 15 years wiring bad ads and corny jingles. That gets a smile out of me that feels wrong and right at the same time. So here we are, I say, turning back to the mic. 2 idiots in a studio, riding the dying heartbeat of a generator so we can tell you not to do the stupid things we've seen other people do. Mark leans closer to the mic. Yeah, he says, like firing a gun in a hallway. I arch an eyebrow. You saw that? On the second floor, he says. Someone used a pistol inside the office corridor. Shot one of them, sure. But the sound, it echoed. Next thing, more of them were coming from both ends. I only glimpsed it before I ducked into a closet. Gun's not magic. It's a dinner bell. You hear that? To anyone who's been polishing their handgun like it's a get-out-of-jail-free card, it's a tool, not a cure. Use it careful if you've got it at all. Mark shifts in his seat. You heard about the rumor? He asks. Which one? I reply. We're drowning in rumors. The one about radio, he says. About the high frequencies. My buddy over at the Ham Club texted me before his network went dark. Said some of the guys on the 40-meter band were hearing weird interference, like voices behind the static. Not human, not language, just patterns. They think the infection is messing with the ionosphere, that all the extra electromagnetic noise from collapsing grids and constant emergency broadcasts is bouncing back in strange ways. He realizes how it sounds as he says it, and shakes his head. I don't know. Maybe it's just people tuning into stations they never noticed before. Or maybe spending 12 hours without sleep makes everything sound like messages from beyond. I file that under interesting but not actionable. Even if the sky is talking, we've got enough on the ground. Still, if you're one of the hobbyists out there with a ham rig and a long wire strung between trees, you might be the last island of sane communication in your area. Write down what you hear, frequencies, call signs, locations. Keep a log. Someday, if there's a someday, that log might become a map of how this thing moved. We're at a point in this broadcast where my voice is starting to feel like sandpaper, but I'm not stopping. Not while the needle on Mark's little generator gauge is still above zero. Mark, anything else people need to know from an infrastructure angle? He scratches at his stubble. Yeah, he says slowly. Gas stations. Stop trying to get gas at the fancy pumps. Power's out. Cards are worthless. If you have to get fuel, you need to find old-school places with manual pumps or someone who knows how to hotwire the automatic ones. And if you can't, remember that a siphon hose and a little lung power go a long way. Cars in parking garages, car parks, long-term airport lots. All of them are possible donors. Just don't forget that the car's owner might still be nearby and not all that welcoming. He pauses. And stop trying to drive on interstates, he adds. It's a nightmare out there. Take side roads, back routes, dirt, if you have to. Highways are just long, straight trap lines now. I nod, even though half the people listening can't see it. All right, I say into the mic, letting my voice stretch, making sure the words sink in. You heard the man. Fuel is blood now. Don't waste it. Don't chase it in stupid ways. And don't assume that the biggest roads are the best path. I look at the clock again. It hasn't moved. Time has become a suggestion. Somewhere under all this, a signal tries to push through. The emergency alert system in the rack behind us gives a weak beep, then coughs static. A bar of text flashes on the small screen, half corrupted. Federal, broadcast, fail, local, use, only. Then it dies. I lean closer to the mic. Seems it's just us then, I say. Local use only. Tonight, local means anyone within range of this frequency. That might be a few square miles. It might be bigger, depending how radio waves choose to behave under stress. Either way, if you can hear me, I'm yours. My name is Daniel Reed. This is 92.7 FM, Columbus, Ohio. We're still on the air. If you've got a story, a warning, a question, or just need to hear another human say your name out loud so you remember you exist, the line is open for as long as the lights hold. We're not done yet.